Hi, good day everyone. Welcome to MOG Economics YouTube channel. Yeah, so we'll be looking at the 10 principles of economics today. We've actually discussed this topic before and had been deliberating on whether to produce an improved version of the class or something like that. But then we happen to take some of our undergraduate students, the fresh men, we're able to take them through 5 weeks of free classes, just like put them through method of operations, and then we tested them, of course, and we realized that we needed to do something else. We needed to have an improved version of the class on 10 principles of economics to deepen their understanding, of all of this. And so this is going to be one of your first classes as an economics undergraduate. So if you are watching this now, I want to wish you a congratulation. Okay, I'm telling you congratulations on getting admission into the university of of your choice, or whatever university that you found yourself. Hopefully, it's the university of your choice, right? So, like I said, this is going to be in a proper university. I think this should be maybe the first or second macroeconomics topics that you are going to be encountering in your class. So I believe that before now that we know the differences between microeconomics and then macroeconomics, right? So microeconomics is just looking at the decision making of individual economic agents in an economy, right? And who are the economic agents? We have households or individuals or households, right? Households are made of individuals anyway. So we have individuals, we have individuals or households, then you have firms like that are called businesses, you have the government, you have the central bank, and then sometimes we can have rest of the world, right? Looking at the impact of a foreign economy on your own economy, right? So so microeconomics is just all about the individual decision making of all of these economic agents. So what are the things that households decide on? What are the things that businesses decide on, and all of that. So if you are looking at the concepts or the discussion within the scope of microeconomics, we are looking at how consumers maximize their utility, and that's like one of the fundamental things that you're going to be learning. Then the choice of households in selling, what do you call it now? Their factors of production to businesses, right? Maybe land, labor, and all of that. Then if we are looking at the business side, I'm talking about firms. Firms are more interested in the decisions to maximize their profits, so they decide on how much of a product to sell, how much of a factor input should be bought. I'm talking about factor of production now, right? How much should they pay a worker, for example, right? Should they go capital intensive or should they go labor intensive as a method of production? Then how much should they sell to the market? And all of those things, those are their own, decisions that they have to look at. But when we look at macroeconomics, so macroeconomics is looking at the economy as a whole, so matters concerning the economy as a whole, right? So instead of having individual economic agents now, like macroeconomics is looking at the economy as one economic agent, like just one, like your country, right, is like the economic agent. I'm not saying that a country is an economic agent, right? I'm just trying to help you understand, okay, the difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics. So macroeconomics is looking at is the economics that considers an economy as a whole, as a unit, right? So it is looking at the decisions, regarding the betterment or the improvement of a country as a whole. And so some of the things that macroeconomics look at, or some of the major objectives, or some of the major macroeconomic concerns, are so you have economic growth, in fact, long run economic growth, or we call it sustainable economic growth and development, right? So we are looking at price stability, right? Because inflation affects everybody in an economy in one way or the other, right? So we are looking at price stability, or we are looking at inflation, right? So government and macroeconomics is all about the pursuit of what do you call it now? A small inflation rate, like between 1 to 2%. That's the acceptable level of inflation in a working economy, right? So, and then I think we'll talk about that later on. And so you also look at having a favorable balance of payments, which is looking at the differences between your cash inflow into your economy as a whole and then your cash outflow. So we are looking at exports minus imports, and there are other things because your balance of payment is broken down into capital accounts, current accounts, and then money movement accounts. So we'll look at that in another topic, like in full, right, to discuss it. So what else? We're also looking at unemployment. So unemployment is a general thing, right, in an economy. So like those are macroeconomic concerns. Now I've mentioned about four of them or thereabout. But that's not the major thing we want to talk about in today's class. So what we just want to introduce ourselves to here are like 10 commandments of economics, or what we call the 10 principles of economics. Right? I'm not sure who came up with this, but I think the book that I tend to find this is in Mankey and Taylor Microeconomics textbook, right? So that's where I kind of find 10 principles of economics. If you read books like Yes and Fair, I'm not sure it is there, right? And then maybe Bell and Bernanke, whatever, right? I'm talking in terms of the authors of those books now. So so far so good. I think I can just give credit to Mankey and Taylor for coming up with this. That's if they were the original if this idea was theirs originally. So these principles of economics basically guide economic students or economists, right, on how to think, right, economically wise, right, or economic wise, right, how to think. So it's just like the 10 commandments of the Bible, right, that is teaching people, guiding Christians, right, on how to like live an acceptable life to the God that you serve and their creator and all of that. So let's just dive straight into it. The first one says that people face trade-offs. People face trade-offs. So this is saying that we make decisions, we make choices, right? So whatever thing we want to venture into, right? We can't have it all. Like that's just what it is trying to say. We can't have it all. So and why can't we have it all? Is due to scarcity, right? So if you go for something, then that means you are not going for the next best thing, right? For example, this class that you're attending now, the next best thing that you could have done instead of attending this class, probably to sleep or maybe to go out and chill with your friends or maybe to rest, see a movie or something. But like because your time is limited, right? So which is a result of scarcity. Everybody's like limited to 24 hours per day, and nothing that you really want to do about that. Okay, so because our time is limited, right? So we just have to like, okay, if I say I should attend this class, then that means I'm giving up something else. So that's what this is trying to say, that people face trade-offs in all of the decisions that we make, right? We have to like pick something for something, and there's some that we are giving up, for other things. So and then this principle is also like helping us to understand that there is no free lunch. So what does that mean? Nothing is free, right? So this principle is trying to let us know that nothing is free, right? So if you want to eat some food, right, you have to be willing to part with some of your money. Like you have to be willing to like buy to like spend some of your money in buying something. Your bank balance is reducing so that you can get more food. So it's not as if you can have both at the same time, right? And then if you happen not to be the one buying the food, someone else must have bought it. So it is not free. The food that you are eating, if you are not incurring the cost on your own, then someone else is incurring the cost on your behalf. Right. So nothing is free. Right. So that is what we mean by saying that there is no free lunch, right? There is no free lunch. That is nothing is free. You have to give up something for something. So that's about that. I don't know if there is. I'm trying to check if there is something that I haven't mentioned. Okay, and then economic. Why I'm looking at the economy as a whole, right? The economy also faces trade-off between consumer goods and capital goods, right? I believe we understand what consumer goods are and what capital goods are. So consumer goods are goods that can be consumed like immediately, right? They are meant for final consumption, right? So, what are the examples of consumer goods? The food that we eat, the clothes that we wear, and all of those things, right? If you're now looking at capital goods, those are goods that are used to create other goods. So, they are goods that create future consumption, right? They create future consumption. So, examples, you have machines, right? You have infrastructures and all of those things, and then you also have, they could also be as simple as a phone or maybe a camera. For example, I'm using a phone to record this class. So the phone is a capital good because I'm using the phone to produce something else that you are now benefiting, from. Right. So that is an example of a capital good. So good that produce future consumption, or goods that are not really consumed for their own sake, but they are used in the production of other things. Right. So economy as a whole faces trade-off between that. So sometimes you look at a country, the government is like, okay, should we take a loan, maybe a World Bank loan to pay salaries or to build roads, that will foster productivity, like in the entire country? Should we build roads? Should we work on electricity and all of those things? But then people are hungry, so you still have to pay salary. So like there's a trade-off, right, between the payment of salaries, right, which is talking about like consumption in that area, because you'll be having that in your current expenditure, right? Don't worry about the stems, you'll understand them better as we um progress, right? And then you also have capital expenditure. So like which one should we really do? Recurrent, because the amount of money that the country has is limited, and if the country decides to pay salaries more with the resources that they have, then that means they have less to spend on capital goods. So that's just it. The way you and I face trade-off in our small decisions is the same way that the entire country faces trade-off in the decisions that it also makes. All right, so that's about that. Then a follow-up on that is the cost of something is what you give up, to have it. Of course. So um if I say that, okay, I want to buy something, right? So what am I giving up to get that thing? So it's going to be money. So money is what we use today, right? And sometimes it may not be money, it may be a service. So like maybe a trade by barter kind of a thing. So if you want to trade, okay, so what do you want? Right? I want someone to teach me a class, and then okay, I don't have any money to pay. And then okay, so what do you want? Like, you who wants to teach me the class? So you might be like, okay, I just need somebody to run a couple of errands for me. So and if I'm willing to run the couple of errands for you, then that exchange is going to work. So in that case, what am I giving up to have the class? So first I'm giving up my time, right? And then I have to run errands for this guy who wants to teach me. So that's a cost that I am also bearing, right? So like economics now looks at in economics, we look at cost in two ways. So we have implicit cost and explicit cost. Now for accountants, they only look at explicit cost. So what I'm explaining now, there's a different video on that. There's a different class on that that deals with it, very well. Okay, and we are going to look at it, in the future, because we want you guys to understand these things very well, right? So if you are looking at explicit cost is just all about payments, like that's just it's money paid for something, right? Or you want an online course, so you have to like pay to register 2,500 naira, 10,000 naira, 20,000 naira. You want to acquire a skill, you have to pay. So you want to like get something for yourself, you have to pay. So all of those are explicit costs, right? And those are things that you have to like incur because you need something. Okay, but now if you look at implicit cost, which is the second part that economists consider, right? So implicit cost is looking at the reward that you would have gotten, right, if you had put your resources into an alternative use, right? So let me explain it very well. The reward you would have gotten if you had put in your resources into an alternative use. Now, let me explain that. Let's say you want to come up with a business, right, and then you need capital. So you have savings, okay, that you can use, to maybe you want to start a thrift. Is it thrift now? Maybe you want to start. Is it thrift store? What do we call this thing where you buy clothes and all of that? So let's say you want to start something like that, or maybe what kind of business? I don't know. I think let me just use that. Okay, maybe a thrift store or something. So you need money and then you have savings, right? So if you take the money, right, and then you use the money to start buying some of the materials that you need, right? So that's a capital for your business, right? To buy something that you need. So that means those things that you are spending money on. Let me say I'm starting a thrift store. I just hope that thrift store is the name for real, because I don't know where this video is gonna get to. Right? So I'm starting that kind of a store. I need to buy clothes, and maybe I need to have like one or two workers. So the clothes that I'm buying, the money I'm spending on the raw materials now, because those clothes will serve as my raw materials. Money I'm spending on them, let me say, out of a capital of 100,000, I spent 50,000 on those. So that's an explicit cost because it is the cash outflow. Money is leaving my hand, right? It's going out of the business. That's the cash outflow. So that's an expense, right? In accounting, that's an expense. So that is an explicit cost. Okay, then I still have some money on ground. Maybe I pay for rent. Okay, then I pay. Maybe I have a salesperson working for me. Right, so you pay those people, like, as long as it is payment. That is an explicit cost, cash outflow, right? But now, what is the implicit cost in that example? You could have still left your money in the bank. So, which is like that. If that is the next best thing you could have done, like instead of venturing into this business, I could have just left your money in the bank. Now, if you leave your money in the bank in a fixed deposit account, you'll be earning interest. All right. So the fact that you have to withdraw that money instead of earning interest simply means you are bearing an implicit cost. And what is the implicit cost? The interest rate that you would have gotten on that money if you had left it in a fixed deposit account with the bank. So that's implicit cost. So and for economics, what we just do, or in economics, what we just do is okay, the cost of something is the sum addition of your explicit cost and your implicit cost. That is your cash outflow and the potential cash inflow that you are not getting because you have used your resources for something different. Right. So that's just it. Another example of an implicit cost is okay, let's say in that business now, you happen to be the owner of the shop, right? Like maybe you inherited it from your parents or something, or maybe of the store that you're going to be using. Now, the implicit cost in that example is that you could have rented out, that store to another business and then be getting some money from it. So the fact that you're not renting out the store to another business, you are using that store by yourself, simply means you are bearing an implicit cost. And what is the implicit cost? The potential rent that you'd have gotten on that store if you had rented it out to somebody else. So like that's just how it works. So economy just looks at the two, right? So now so this principle is just trying to tell us that whatever you have to give up to get something, that's the cost. So if the only thing you are giving up is money, like payment, then that's the cost. But if you are giving up money and time, so you have that's going to be a cost as well, right? So, but from my explanation, I want to believe that we've understood that cost can be more than money, and usually cost is more than money, right? So, and then looking at your undergraduate studies, if I were to ask you what is the cost of attending this university now, right? You will likely see your tuition, your school fee, accommodation fee, your cost of feeding, cost of whatever and whatever like that. Now the point is that it's not going to be all the costs that you mentioned that are that will count as cost of attending the university. Right? For example, your school fee. Of course, if you're not attending the university, you won't have to be paying school fees. Right? And then what else? You'll have to like spend on books, recommended materials. So if you are not going to the university, like you don't really have to spend on those things. So like those are part of the cost of going into a university. But that's not all, right? Now you may also want to talk about feeding costs. But the thing is that feeding is not a function of you going to school. You have to feed whether you're going to school or not. So if you're adding up the cost of food, then you're wrong. Your calculation is not correct because whether you're going to this to university or not, you have to eat, right? And then if you're also adding up the cost of shelter, then that is also wrong. That's inaccurate because you need a place like lay your head normally. So the difference there is now if going to school is costing you more in feeding and accommodation than if you didn't go to school. So that is when you're not going to add that cost. For example, maybe in the school environment, you are going to a place like Unilag, right? And then probably you finish you live in Ogun State, things are expensive there too. Maybe you are coming from Ondo State, where things are not as expensive, like food and all of that. But then your university is Unilag, like you have to travel from Ondo State to Lagos State, right? So in Unilag, things are costly. So the additional cost of feeding in Unilag is going to be part of the cost of attending Unilag now. And then the additional cost of accommodation too, right? Because if you had stayed in those states, you may not have been paying more than 60, 80K for like maybe a room self-contained and you'll be enjoying yourself. Right. But then you come to Unilag and then it's not you can't even call it a room. So it's more like a box or something, and then you have to pay like 100K for it within the university. So like that's just telling that okay, obviously, I'm meant to shelter myself. I'm meant to have a house to dwell in, but I'm incurring more on accommodation here because I am coming to this school. So in that case, you can add that extra amount you're spending in school and accommodation as part of your cost of attending university, right? So there are also other costs. So what's you also have psychic costs. So if you are doing by the time you progress and you start doing human resource development courses, you learn about psychic cost, psychic like psychology, PSYCHIC. I think, yeah, that's it, psychic cost. So that is the stress of going into the university. There's a lot of stress. You will live like book is hard, right? Book is hard to read and all of those things. Even if you enjoy reading, you may get to a point at the university that you might be overwhelmed by the number of courses and books and material that you have to study, right? So like you have psychic cost as well. Like that's talking about stress that you have to undergo, you know, to be a successful undergraduate student. Now, then what is going to be your implicit cost? So if you had not come to school, what was the thing that you would have done? Right? You could have taken a job based on your SS3 certificate or like the certificate that you probably have now instead of trying to pursue a higher degree. So you could have gotten a job and be earning income. So the fact that you are not working, right, and be earning some income, and then you are in school, it simply means that you have an implicit cost. And what is the implicit cost? The income that you would have earned from doing a job, right, instead of coming to the university to come and learn, right? Sometimes you might be in the university and be running a part-time job, right? But then you could have just had a full-time job. So we are just looking at, okay, what was the next so it is not everything that's going to be an opportunity cost. Like, what was the next thing that you could have done instead of coming to the university? What was the next best thing you could have done? So what are you losing out on not doing that thing? So that's an implicit cost. So I think I've explained yeah, that. So over time, yeah, it's going to be a different class on this. So the next one is rational people think at the margin, right? So economics is trying to let us know who are rational people. You can say people that have common sense, but like that's not really the way economics looks at rational people. So economics is looking at rational people in the sense that they make people that make choices, people that make rational choices, or people. How do I put it? For example, let me put it this way: and economists will say you're rational if like you have three cars, like there are three cars, or let me say three phones. There's a Techno phone, there's a Samsung phone, there is a what do you call it now? Then there is a Nokia phone, Techno, Samsung, Nokia. So if you say that okay, you prefer to have a Techno phone than a Samsung phone, like on your scale of preference, it is Techno, Samsung, and Nokia. So Nokia is a list. So if you say okay, I prefer a Techno phone to a Samsung phone. Okay, and then you prefer so like normally you should prefer a Samsung phone to a Nokia phone. Do you understand? So it normally to say you're rational if you don't eventually say that you prefer a Techno phone to a Nokia phone because Nokia is the third, Techno is the first. So if you prefer first to the second one, and I prefer the second one to the third one. So definitely you must prefer the first one to the third one. But you're going to be rational if you say that okay, if I have a choice between Techno and Samsung, I'll pick Techno. And then I have a choice between Samsung and Nokia, I'll pick Samsung. So we now give you a Techno and a Nokia, you now pick Nokia. Like, what? So, do you get it? So, in that case, you're rational, right? So, again, let us buttress what economics refer to as rational. So, we are also looking at rationality in terms of people making choices based on additional costs and additional benefits. So you watching this video now, you must have looked at okay, what does it cost me additionally? Like what cost am I incurring at the present time in attending this video, and then what benefits am I going to get? So if you look at it that okay, the benefits of attending this class is going to be more than the cost of attending this class, then definitely it is good to attend the class. Like that's just the point. It's rational to attend the class. So marginal benefits and marginal cost, right? So the marginal they're just talking about incremental, additional, right? So just talking about like the current state, like that's just the point. And so you want to do something. What benefit am I going to get from doing that thing, right? And what cost am I going to incur from doing that thing? So the benefit is what you call the marginal benefit. The cost is what you call your marginal cost. Incremental cost of taking a decision, right? So incremental benefits enjoyed from taking a decision. So that's just it. Now let's look at it this way. Let's assume that you're a wealthy woman, right? And then you feel like taking a job. Like normally you don't need a job, but if you feel like taking it, you're already wealthy, right? But then the job that you're taking, your cost of transportation is more than the salary that they want to pay you. So even though you're already wealthy, normally you shouldn't mind because well, I don't mind. Like I have millions and billions already. Like so, I don't really care. But the thing is that you're going to care. You likely care, right? Because you are looking at wait, I'm good on my own, fine. So if I were to take this job like in the first place, then this job should pay for its transportation cost by itself. So that's what you are looking at. You're not looking at your total wealth now, like you're not looking at a total income or something like that. You're looking at this particular one that I want to do. Like so, like the cost of this thing should be lower than the benefit I'm getting from it for me to do it. So if you don't think along that line, then so to economics or in the field of economics, we see that you are not rational, right? You are not being rational. So like, so that's I get you. I hope you understand what we are trying to say here. So you are looking at incremental benefits of making a decision and then incremental costs incurred from taking a decision. Okay. So I think I already mentioned that. So what about going to the university? So for you to go into the university, right? What are the benefits? So you are like, okay, I'm going to be better placed. My degree is going to give me a better, what do you call it now, a better standing. right? When I'm done, after 4 years, and the kind of job opportunities I'm going to be getting are going to be incredible and the ones I can possibly get now. So that is like the expectation, right? That is the marginal benefit you're expecting to get from attending the university, right? And then that might not be it for you, can be different, right? Maybe you just want to improve yourself on your field, or you just want to be educated, like you just love it, or this is what you've always wanted to do, but then you have to like maybe give it up to bear children or give it up for marriage. But now you have the time and then you want to like go into it. So like if you consider that the benefits is this, then the benefits is more than all of this cost I'm going to be incurring, the payment of school fees, the buying of books, the stress I'm going to be going through, then what any job could have given me at this particular point in time. So if you just compare, okay, benefit of going to school, of attending university, cost of attending university, okay, the benefits to me is more. Like there are more possibilities. So like let me go, right? And then take it. So rational people think at the margin. They think in terms of incremental things, incremental cost, incremental benefit of that decision they are about to take. They don't look at averages. Economics does not look at averages, like what is going to be my average benefit. They look at averages, they don't look at totals or averages. They're looking at marginal. This thing, what more does it cost me? What more does it benefit me? If the marginal benefit is more than the marginal cost, you go for it. If marginal cost is more than the marginal benefit, you are bought mission. If they are equal, well, you're indifferent. Do what you want to do. All right. So the fourth one, people respond to incentives. So what are incentives? So incentives are motivations or demotivations of taking a particular line of action, right? So things that spur up what ordinarily wouldn't have been done, right? For example, while we were taking students through the free session for this new session that we're in, they've resumed anyway, like resumed premium classes now. We were while we're engaging them, there were students that were not that responsive because they were working, right? Of course, like it had to be before the university opened. So some were still working, hustling and all of that. But it got to a time when I attached a price to a particular assignment. And then those who were not participating before even turned in the assignment. And I was like, oh wow, damn it. You in particular have not been responding. Like, so why did you respond this time? And the student was like, I was challenged. Like you there was something that you added to this and then I was challenged. So I wanted to like do this and all of that. So that was somebody responding to incentives, right? So then incentive could also be to stop a bad activity. Okay. So like maybe your student is already taking third position or fourth position, your child rather is taking third or fourth position and you don't want it. So you want him to like take first or second and whatever. Okay, what do you want? And I want an iPhone. Oh wow. Oh, okay. Okay, no. Okay, yes. Whatever. So if you can just take first position, I'm going to get you an iPhone. And then before you know it, if the child is a serious person, the child is going to work hard to get that first position. He may get that, he may not get it, but like there's going to be a drastic change or there will likely be a drastic change in the performance of that student, right? So from moving away from four, like I don't want fourth again now because there's something attached to it. So some of us don't do so well at the things we do in life because we are not being motivated. But this is not part of the class, but I'm trying to tell you now that be self-motivating. Like don't let your motivation come from outside. Like incentivize yourself. Like treat yourself out. Then if I achieve this thing, then I'm going to do my Maldives to enjoy myself and whatever. Anyway, so people respond to incentives. So like that's just what we are trying to say. If you don't want your child, or if you don't want to be spending a lot of time on Twitter, on social media, you can also like attach a price to it or something. Okay, if I'm unable to like stay off this for this number of hours, then I'm going to like do this for myself. So um then there's an example here that what if your uncle promises you like a large sum of money? Okay, as a student, for example, your uncle promises you 50,000 naira, and then like normally like what you get as a stipend on a monthly basis is probably 20,000 naira. But your uncle has promised, okay, next week I'm going to give you 50,000 naira. That's an incentive, right? But then you begin to realize that because that money is sure that your uncle is going to give it to you because it doesn't disappoint, and then he's well off, you will likely be spending your current money more than you would have done, right? So the money that you have with you now, you like because you're expecting something that is sure, you're expecting money that is certain. So you likely be spending the money that you have now more than you would ordinarily have done, right? So that's also an incentive pushing you to something that you couldn't have done. So then, if you look at it in terms of demand and supply, right? So an increase in price is an incentive for suppliers to supply more of their products into the market. Okay, when they realize that okay, people are valuing their products more, people are willing to pay higher price for their product, it's an incentive to sell more. Do you understand? But an increase in price is an incentive for consumers to buy less, right? Because it's now the product is more expensive, unless it's a necessity. If it's not a necessity, like people are just going to cut back on the product. And so you can see the way incentives work differently for different agents, for different people, right? On and on like that. So these four what do you call it now? Principles that I've discussed, they are under how people make decisions. How people make decisions. So I think we'll just stop there for now so the class doesn't get too long, and then we'll continue our discussion on this right in the subsequent class. Thank you for coming. As an assignment, you can just try to like read up these other parts. Just it's already in your Macroeconomics textbook. Just read it up, to have a basic idea, and then we'll start to discuss it in the next class. Thank you very much for attending. See you there. Bye.